I found one message on my husband's old tablet. "I'll leave her soon," he promised his mistress. I stayed silent, rebuilt my finances, and when he finally confessed, I said, "I already won. I'm leaving you." It started with a permission form. My daughter, Emily, texted me from school because she needed it submitted before 5. Our laptop was with my husband, Raymond, and the school website kept freezing on my phone. I remembered an old tablet sitting in the kitchen drawer. Raymond had replaced it months earlier and probably forgotten about it. I plugged it in, waited for it to start, and opened his email to search for the message from Emily's teacher. Before I found it, a notification appeared across the screen. It came from someone saved as Mark. "Can you still get away Thursday? I'm tired of seeing you only when it works for you." The message wasn't openly romantic, but something about it immediately felt wrong. Raymond had told me he had a client meeting Thursday night. I tapped the notification. I didn't stop to think about privacy. Every late meeting, sudden schedule change, and unexplained shift in his behavior connected in my head before the conversation even opened. Mark wasn't a man. Her name was Melissa. She worked with a firm that sometimes partnered with Raymond's construction company. Their messages went back almost 7 months. I stood at the kitchen counter and scrolled while the dishwasher ran beside me. Melissa wanted to know when he was leaving me. Raymond kept telling her soon. She asked whether he still slept in our bedroom. He said he only stayed there because the children would notice if he moved into the guest room. She asked if he loved me. He replied, "Not the way a husband should." I read that sentence 3 times. The previous evening, Raymond had been sitting beside me on the couch, eating the dinner I made and showing me hotels for a family trip. He had rested his hand on my knee and said, "We need to do something special with the kids. They're growing up too fast." According to his messages, our marriage was already dead. Apparently, nobody had told me. I kept reading. There were hotel confirmations, restaurant plans, and conversations sent while I was in the same house. One exchange was from Emily's birthday. Melissa had written, "I hate watching you pretend they're your whole world." Raymond responded, "I just have to get through tonight. I'll call when everyone is asleep." That evening, after the cake and presents, Raymond had volunteered to take the dog for a long walk. I thought he was helping because I still had dishes to wash and wrapping paper to clean up. He had been calling her. There were messages about me too. He told Melissa I was controlling, that I didn't understand the pressure he carried, that I cared more about the children and the house than I cared about him. He called our home cold. That one almost made me laugh. I had spent the previous winter arranging repairs because he complained that his office was always freezing. Melissa told him she was tired of being hidden. Raymond promised she wouldn't be hidden much longer. "I'll leave her soon," he wrote. I don't know how long I stood there. Eventually, the screen dimmed in my hands. Then my son, Jack, walked through the back door, dropped his backpack on the floor, and asked what we were having for dinner. "Tacos," I said. So I made tacos. That probably sounds strange. My marriage had just split open in front of me, but the children were hungry. Emily still needed to be picked up. Wet clothes were sitting in the washing machine. Life didn't stop because Raymond was cheating. I submitted the permission form at 4:46. Raymond came home a little after 7. He walked into the kitchen, kissed my cheek, and asked if I had handled Emily's form. "Yes," he smiled. "I knew you would. That had always been my role. I handled things." When Raymond and his business partner, Douglas, started their company, they worked from a cramped rented room with 2 old desks and a printer that jammed constantly. Raymond handled construction. Douglas found clients. I filled in wherever they struggled. I created invoices at our kitchen table. I called clients who were months behind on payments. I organized receipts, prepared paperwork, and kept our household functioning while Raymond worked nights and weekends. When they struggled to make payroll, I used part of my savings to cover our personal bills. When Raymond needed a proper suit for an important meeting, I bought one and told him not to worry about the cost. When the children asked why their father missed dinner again, I said he was building something for our family. He was. That was what made everything complicated. Raymond had worked hard. He took risks, lost sleep, and helped turn a struggling company into something successful. But he had not done it alone. The business grew because someone else absorbed everything that would have distracted him from it. That person was me. Our home, the children's stability, the retirement accounts, and the nearly paid-off mortgage had all been built during our marriage. Then, once our life became comfortable, Raymond decided he deserved another one. I barely spoke during dinner that night. Raymond didn't notice. He was answering messages beneath the table. Later, he placed his phone face down beside the bed. "Everything okay?" he asked. "I'm tired." He kissed my forehead and switched off the light. I lay beside him until his breathing became steady. At around 2 in the morning, he rolled toward me and placed an arm around my waist. My body went rigid. I wanted to shove him away and ask how many hotel rooms he had paid for while telling me we needed to reduce our household spending. I wanted to wake the children, pack bags, and leave before sunrise. But I had no plan. Raymond had been lying for months. I could give myself a few days before revealing what I knew. For the next 3 days, I moved through the house like I was watching someone else live my life. While Raymond was at work, I returned to the tablet and copied the evidence. I saved messages, hotel confirmations, and restaurant plans to an email account he didn't know about. Then I checked our shared credit card statements. There were charges I had ignored because Raymond called them business expenses. A hotel near the airport. A restaurant where he claimed to have taken a client. A jewelry store charge from the week before Christmas. Raymond had given me slippers and a kitchen mixer that year. I had been grateful because we were supposedly cutting back. I never learned what he bought Melissa. After collecting what I needed, I stopped using the tablet. Watching the affair unfold in real time would have destroyed whatever control I had left. I cried for the first time while folding Jack's clothes. It wasn't one of the messages that broke me. It was a memory. Years earlier, before the company became successful, Raymond had lost a contract he thought would save the business. He came home, sat on the kitchen floor, and told me he had failed us. I sat beside him and said, "Then we start again tomorrow." We ate cereal for dinner because neither of us had the energy to cook. I had believed surviving hard years together meant we would protect each other once life became easier. I sat on the laundry room floor with one of Jack's shirts in my hands and cried as quietly as I could. The next morning, I called a divorce attorney. Her name was Cynthia. I told Raymond I had a meeting connected to some client work. That wasn't completely false. I brought years of tax returns and financial statements with me. Cynthia listened while I explained the affair. When I finished, she asked, "Does your husband know you found out?" "No." "Do you want a divorce?" That should have been the easiest question. Instead, I stared at my wedding ring. "I don't know what I can afford to want." Cynthia didn't judge me. She asked about the house, the children, Raymond's ownership in the company, our accounts, and the income one earned from home. My work helped with groceries and smaller expenses, but it could not support me and the children at our current level. I had stepped away from full-time employment when Jack was young because Raymond's schedule had become impossible. One of us had to be available when school called, when childcare failed, or when someone got sick. That person was always me. Cynthia explained that I would likely have a claim to part of the wealth created during our marriage, including some of the growth in Raymond's business interest. But valuing a private company could be expensive and contested. Raymond could challenge the numbers. Financial experts might need to examine company records. The process could take months. The house might have to be sold. Custody would probably be shared because, despite everything, Raymond was an involved father. That mattered. He attended school events when work allowed. He helped Jack with projects. He took Emily out for breakfast before important days because she became nervous. The children loved him. I didn't want them to stop loving him because he had betrayed me. But shared custody meant losing part of the everyday life I had spent years building around them. Even if the financial outcome was fair eventually, leaving immediately could still mean legal bills, uncertainty, and moving somewhere that disrupted the children's school and routines. Cynthia leaned back in her chair. "You have rights," she said. "But rights don't remove the cost of enforcing them." I appreciated that she didn't sell me a fantasy where I walked out untouched. There was no untouched version of this. "What happens if I don't confront him yet?" I asked. "That depends on what you do at the time." "I need to prepare." She told me to copy financial records I legally had access to. Tax returns, insurance information, loan documents, retirement statements, and records connected to the house. She warned me not to drain accounts or hide shared money. Most importantly, she told me to rebuild my ability to support myself. "You don't have to decide today," she said. "But staying without a plan is different from staying with one." I sat in my car for 20 minutes after leaving her office. I thought about our house. Emily's height marks were still penciled inside the pantry door. Jack had learned to ride his bike in the driveway. The children could walk to their friends' homes. Their school was close enough that I knew every shortcut between our house and the parking lot. I wasn't ready to pack their lives into bags because Raymond wanted hotel rooms and admiration. That evening, he came home carrying flowers. For one terrifying second, I thought he knew. Then he handed them to me and said, "I passed a florist and thought you deserved something." They were yellow roses. I had never liked yellow roses. Melissa did. She had mentioned them in one of the messages. Raymond had either confused us or bought 2 bouquets. I thanked him and put them in water. That was when I decided to stay. Not forever. I would stay until leaving became a choice I could survive. I started with paperwork. I downloaded statements and copied tax returns. I found the agreement showing Raymond's ownership share in the company. I realized my name wasn't attached to as many things as I had assumed. Raymond hadn't secretly removed me from anything. It was more careless than that. Over the years, he had opened accounts and signed documents while I handled the rest of our life. He would say, "I've got it," and I had confused being taken care of with being informed. I asked for access to one of our investment accounts. Raymond looked surprised. "I want to understand our retirement planning," I said. "I've ignored too much of it." He smiled as though he was proud of me. "That's probably my fault. I should have included you more." He added my access that week. He believed I was becoming more involved in our future. I was learning how to leave it. I also increased my workload. I contacted former clients and told them I had room to take on more projects. One referred me to a small medical office. Another needed help managing payroll. I worked early in the morning and after the children went to bed. Raymond noticed. "You don't have to take on this much," he said one evening. "I like earning my own money. You already contribute." He meant it kindly, but the comment still bothered me. Contributing had never been the issue. I needed control over something that belonged to me. I opened a separate account for the income one earned. Cynthia had already explained how to handle it properly. I kept records, paid taxes, and never transferred shared money into it. At first, the balance covered only a month of basic expenses. Then 2. Whenever I felt trapped, I checked it. Every night, I still slept beside Raymond. Sometimes he came home after seeing Melissa and immediately showered. Sometimes he became overly affectionate for a few minutes, as if guilt had briefly reminded him I existed. I stopped asking where he had been. I no longer argued when he came home late or inspected his explanations for holes. Raymond interpreted my silence as trust. The strangest part was that our marriage became calmer. Before I found out, I still expected honesty. I complained when he missed dinner. I asked why he seemed distracted. I told him the children noticed when he canceled plans. After I found out, I stopped expecting him to act like a husband. The arguments disappeared because hope had disappeared with them. Raymond thought we had survived a difficult phase. At a barbecue, I overheard him telling Douglas, "Things at home are finally good again." I was standing close enough to hear every word. Douglas smiled at me. I smiled back. "Things are quieter," I said. That was true. Emily noticed too. One evening, while helping me clear the table, she said, "You and Dad haven't argued in a long time. We're trying to keep things peaceful." She hugged me and said she was glad. I went into the bathroom afterward and locked the door. My silence made the children feel safe. I hated that. I also wasn't ready to take that safety away before I had something stable to replace it. 6 months after I discovered the messages, Melissa contacted me. Her message came from a social media account with no photo. "There are things you deserve to know about your husband." I was sitting in the car outside Emily's music lesson. I stared at the words before replying. "I already know." The typing bubble appeared almost immediately, then disappeared, then came back. "Know what?" "Enough." She asked if we could meet. I said no. She said she had evidence. Before I could respond, she started sending it. Photos of her and Raymond at restaurants. A picture of his watch and hand resting on a hotel pillow. Screenshots of promises he had made. He would leave after the holidays. After Emily's birthday. After a major company project. After summer. There was always another reason to wait. Melissa sent a long explanation about how Raymond had told her our marriage had been over for years. He claimed I knew. He said we were only sharing a home because of the children. That's convenient, I replied. What is? The only person who could confirm his story was the wife he told you not to contact. She didn't answer for several minutes. Then she wrote, "He loves me." Maybe he does. Then why are you still with him? I could have claimed our marriage was stronger than their affair. I wasn't interested in competing for Raymond. I helped build the life you're asking me to surrender, I wrote. She called me. I declined. She called again. I declined again. Then she sent, "You have no self-respect." That message hurt because I had already said the same thing to myself. People imagine a betrayed wife discovering an affair, packing a suitcase, and walking directly into a better life. They rarely talk about housing, health insurance, custody schedules, or rebuilding an income after years of arranging your life around someone else's career. I replied, "You're free to keep waiting for him." She answered, "I won't wait forever." That's something you should tell Raymond. Then I blocked her. For a while, that was the end of it. I kept working. I updated my skills and added another client. The separate account continued growing. I didn't buy anything Raymond would notice. The money wasn't for revenge. It was for choices. Raymond became more relaxed around me. He left his phone on the counter more often. He started coming home earlier once or twice a week. Sometimes he brought coffee to my desk while I worked. "You're getting serious about this," he said. "I am. You could probably turn it into a real business." I looked at him. It already is real. He apologized, but I don't think he understood why the comment bothered me. For years, he had treated my work as something small I did around the life that mattered. Now it was becoming the reason I could imagine a life without him. Melissa contacted me again a few months later through a different account. This time, she didn't pretend she was trying to protect me. "He says you barely speak to him," she wrote. "That's true. He says you don't love him. I'm surprised that bothers you." She didn't answer. A week later, she asked to meet again. This time, I said yes. Maybe I was tired of imagining her as something larger than she was. Maybe I wanted to see the person waiting for me to disappear. We met at a coffee shop across town. I arrived early and chose a table near the window. Melissa walked in wearing a beige coat. She looked nervous and tired. She wasn't some glamorous stranger who had swept Raymond into another world. She looked like a normal person who had made selfish decisions and was angry those decisions had not produced the life she expected. She sat across from me. "Thank you for coming." I waited. She wrapped both hands around her cup. "I know you hate me. I don't know you well enough to hate you." Her face tightened. "I never meant for this to happen. You've been seeing my husband for over a year. I didn't expect it to become this complicated. How did you expect it to happen?" She looked away. Then she told me her version. Raymond had pursued her. He said our marriage was emotionally empty. He said I cared about the children, the house, and appearances more than I cared about him. He claimed I could not manage financially on my own, so he felt guilty leaving. I almost admired how carefully he had built separate versions of me. To Melissa, I was helpless and dependent. To me, he acted as though I was capable enough to handle every responsibility he ignored. He made himself look noble in both stories. Melissa wiped beneath one eye. "He says every time he tries to talk to you about separating, something happens." "What happens?" "The children need something. Work gets busy. You have a family problem." "He has never tried to talk to me about separating." Her expression changed. Another piece of Raymond's story had collapsed. "Do you still love him?" she asked. I thought about it. "Not the way I used to." "Then let him go." I stared at her. "He can leave whenever he wants. You know it isn't that simple. He knows how to hire an attorney. He thinks you'll use the children against him. I've spent months protecting their opinion of him." Melissa went quiet. She probably expected me to expose them. I could have told Raymond's parents or Douglas. I could have humiliated him in front of our friends. I didn't. Public destruction would have harmed the same family and finances I was trying to stabilize. "Why are you really staying?" she asked. I told her the truth. The children's school. The cost of leaving. The company valuation. The income one was rebuilding. She shook her head. "So it's about money. It's about years of work turning into something you expect me to abandon." "You're using him." "Yes." The answer surprised her. "He's using both of us," I said. "The difference is that I didn't create this arrangement." Melissa pushed back her chair. "You're pathetic." "Maybe. I would rather live in a tiny apartment than stay with someone who doesn't love me." That's your choice. She left without finishing her coffee. That evening, I came home and found Raymond helping Jack build a model bridge for school. One side kept collapsing. Jack was frustrated, but Raymond calmly helped him take it apart and start again. When they saw me, Raymond smiled. Perfect timing. We need someone who understands numbers. I stood in the doorway and watched them. That was what made everything difficult. Raymond wasn't only the man who betrayed me. He was also the father sitting on the floor with glue on his fingers, helping our son rebuild a bridge. Real people rarely make clean villains. My income kept increasing. Eventually, I earned enough to qualify for a modest rental without relying entirely on support Raymond might later be ordered to pay. Cynthia helped me review my options again. By then, I had records, savings, and a realistic plan to stay near the children's school. You're in a stronger position, she said. I don't feel stronger. That doesn't mean you aren't. I began looking at townhouses. I didn't sign anything. I only wanted to know what was possible. One place had 3 small bedrooms, a fenced yard, and an outdated kitchen. It wasn't impressive. But I stood in the empty living room and imagined Emily dropping her bag beside the stairs. I imagined Jack leaving his shoes in the hallway. For the first time, a smaller life did not look like failure. It looked possible. Melissa's messages became less patient. She stopped talking about love and started talking about deadlines. She said she had wasted too much time waiting. She blamed Raymond. Then she blamed me. Finally, 16 months after I found the tablet, she sent one last message. He has until Friday to tell you everything. If he doesn't, I'm telling his family, his business partner, and everyone else. I read it twice. Then I put my phone away. I didn't warn Raymond. For more than a year, he had controlled every version of the story. He decided what Melissa believed about our marriage. He decided what I believed about his schedule. I wanted to see what he did when he lost control. He became restless that week. He barely ate dinner. He checked his phone constantly. On Wednesday night, he asked if we could talk after the children went to bed. I told him I had work to finish. Tomorrow, then, he said. On Thursday, he came home before 6. He helped clear the dishes without being asked. He tried to talk to Emily about school, but barely listened to her answers. After the children went upstairs, Raymond stood in the kitchen doorway. Can you sit down? I closed my laptop. We sat across from each other at the same table where I had once created invoices for his struggling company. The wood was covered with scratches from homework, art projects, and family dinners. Raymond folded his hands. There's something I need to tell you. I waited. He looked at the table. I've made a terrible mistake. I didn't help him. I made him say it. He said there had been another woman. He didn't use Melissa's name at first. He called it a relationship. He said it began during a difficult period in our marriage. That phrase made my jaw tighten, as if the affair had been created by both of us. He said it had gone further than he intended. He claimed he had tried to end it. He said he never planned to leave the family. He said he loved me. For almost 20 minutes, Raymond explained his betrayal as if the right combination of words might make it smaller. Then he started crying. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, he said. I remained quiet. I don't want to lose you. He seemed genuinely terrified. For a moment, I saw the younger man who had once sat on the floor of our tiny apartment, convinced a failed contract meant he had ruined our future. Back then, I had reached for him. This time, I didn't. When did it start? I asked. He gave me a date 3 months later than the first messages. How did you meet? He told me. How many hotels? He hesitated. I named 3. His face lost all color. What? You forgot to disconnect your old tablet. Raymond stared at me. I found the messages 16 months ago. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Finally, he said, you knew. Yes. All this time. Yes. He stood and took a few steps away from the table. Then he turned back. Why didn't you say anything? I had imagined that question for more than a year. When the moment arrived, my voice was calm. Because confronting you would have required me to care whether you chose her. That hurt him more than anything else I had said. He sat down again. I never chose her over you. You chose her every time you lied to me. I didn't want to destroy our family. You wanted to keep the family and the affair. He covered his face. How much did you see? He asked. Enough. Have you spoken to her? She contacted me. Raymond's head snapped up. What did she tell you? I laughed once. Of course, that was his first concern. He needed to know which lies had collided. I told him about the screenshots, the coffee shop, and Melissa's deadline. She's threatening to tell everyone, he said. She gave you until tomorrow. Catherine, please. I can fix this. What exactly are you going to fix? I'll end it. I'll give you every password. We can go to counseling. You think access to your phone repairs 16 months of lies? I'll do anything. I know. He reached for my hand. I moved it away. Are you filing for divorce? He asked. I'm leaving. His expression changed. What? I've rebuilt my income. I have the records I need. I've spoken to Cynthia several times, and I know what I can realistically afford. You planned all this behind my back? You built an entire relationship behind mine. I thought we were doing better. You thought silence meant forgiveness. I thought you trusted me. No. You thought I had stopped paying attention. He stood again. You used me. You used our marriage as cover while promising another woman a future. I used the time to make sure your choices didn't destroy my life. This is revenge. No. Revenge would have been exposing you before I was ready and letting everything collapse around us. He stared at me. I stayed until I could support myself. Until I had a realistic way to remain near the children's school. Until leaving no longer meant surrendering everything I helped build. What about us? There hasn't been an us since the day you decided our marriage was dead without telling me. He began crying harder. I love you. I believe you love what I made possible. That isn't fair. Neither was your affair. Raymond lowered himself into the chair. After a long silence, he whispered, so she won. Melissa had spent more than a year waiting for Raymond to choose her. Raymond had spent more than a year assuming I would never choose myself. They had both been wrong. I already won, I said. I'm leaving you. The next morning, Raymond ended the affair. Melissa sent me a screenshot of his final message. I confessed. I'm choosing my family. Don't contact me or my wife again. Below it, she wrote, congratulations. You got what you wanted. I didn't answer. Raymond had not chosen the family until he realized the family was leaving him. That wasn't victory. It was panic. I filed the following week. Raymond begged me to delay. He offered full access to his accounts, counseling, and complete transparency. I agreed to attend family transition sessions so we could tell the children and learn how to separate without turning them into weapons. Raymond kept trying to treat the sessions as reconciliation. I corrected him every time. This is for the family, I said. Not the marriage. Telling Emily and Jack was the worst part. We sat together in the living room. Raymond and I agreed not to tell them about the affair. They were old enough to understand that we were separating, but not old enough to carry every detail. Emily cried quietly. Jack became angry. Why can't you just fix it? He asked. I wanted to tell him I had spent 16 months fixing the part of my life I still controlled. Instead, I said, some things can change without either of us stopping loving you. Raymond looked down. We told them they would stay in the same schools. Neither parent was disappearing. They would have rooms in both homes. It wasn't enough to make them feel better, but it was the truth. I moved into the townhouse 4 months later, almost 2 years after finding the message. The legal process continued after the move. Raymond and I negotiated the house and the value of the business growth that had occurred during our marriage. The company's financial records were reviewed by professionals. Douglas knew a valuation was happening, but he was not personally involved in our divorce. In the final agreement, I gave up any claim to direct ownership in the company. In exchange, I received a larger share of our available investments and a structured payment representing my portion of the marital increase in Raymond's business interest. Raymond refinanced the house and bought out my share. He kept the family home, which meant the children did not lose the place where they had grown up. I stayed close enough for shared custody to work without disrupting their routines. The townhouse was smaller. The kitchen cabinets were old. The upstairs bathroom had terrible tile. Storage was limited. But it had 3 bedrooms and a small backyard. Emily covered one wall with photos. Jack left his shoes in the hallway on the first day, which annoyed me and made the place feel like home at the same time. The first night the children stayed with Raymond, I sat alone on the living room floor because most of my furniture had not arrived. I ate takeout from the container and listened to the silence. For months, I had imagined freedom as relief. That night, it felt lonely. I missed Emily singing badly in the shower. I missed Jack asking questions while I tried to work. I even missed Raymond walking through the kitchen asking where he had left his keys. I wondered whether I had made a terrible mistake. Then morning came. Sunlight moved through the window beside the dining area. I made coffee and opened my laptop. Nobody was lying to me. The quiet still hurt, but it was honest. My work continued to grow. I took on enough clients to rent a small office with another local business owner. Later, I hired someone part-time to help with administrative work. I didn't become wealthy. I still worried about bills and unexpected repairs. But my independence was no longer theoretical. The children slowly adjusted. Emily stopped checking whether she had left clothes at the wrong house. Jack still disliked switching homes, but the routine became normal. Raymond remained a good father. I never tried to change that. He attended school events and helped with projects. We sat in the same rows without pretending we were together. Co-parenting was awkward, but it became calmer than our marriage had been. Melissa disappeared from my life for several months. Then she sent one final email. She had learned about the separation through mutual professional contacts. She accused me of using her ultimatum to prepare my exit. She claimed I had taken Raymond's money, damaged him emotionally, and abandoned him after he ended the affair. The message also admitted that Raymond had refused to resume their relationship. Melissa had waited for him to become available. When he finally was, he still didn't choose her. I replied with one sentence. You kept waiting for him to choose you. I was learning how to choose myself. Then I blocked her permanently. Raymond still hasn't fully accepted that the marriage is over. When he drops off the children, he sometimes finds reasons to stay. He notices changes in the townhouse. He asks whether I need help with repairs. Once, he stood in the doorway and said, "This place looks like you." "It is," I said. He looked hurt. Maybe I did hurt him. After I revealed what I knew, Raymond tried to change. He became more present with the children. He apologized without blaming me. He said he was willing to spend the rest of his life rebuilding my trust. I still left. By then, I didn't want revenge. I simply no longer felt married to him. I believe Raymond regretted what he did. I also believe the man who helped me build our first life and the man who betrayed me were both real. People are rarely only the worst thing they have done. That doesn't mean we have to keep sharing a life with them. I stayed because leaving immediately would have forced me and the children to absorb the greatest cost of Raymond's choices. I didn't hide marital assets, turn the children against him, destroy his company, or publicly humiliate him. I used the time to become capable of walking away. The townhouse is quiet tonight. Emily and Jack are with Raymond. There is a mug in the sink, paperwork on the table, and that awful tile still covering the upstairs bathroom. My life is smaller than it was before. But it is honest. So was I protecting myself by staying silent until I was ready, or did I become just as dishonest as my husband by letting him believe our marriage still had a future?